Thalassophobia. Patient record HM046910C. Patient ID HM08131188. Patient name Hunt Michael. Age 18. Sex male. Diagnosis Thalassophobia, fear of the sea or sea travel. The following is a portion of the patient's application to the Skinner Foundation's Fear Clinic. Police records indicate multiple meltdowns from the patient in the presence of water in nature. For most people, thalassophobia is not a particular inconvenience. Sure, it might limit some of your vacation activities, but it's not like having a crippling fear of bridges or an intense, irrational fear of being in public. There are a lot of aspects of thalassophobia that make a lot of people qualify for the diagnosis. For most people, it's the vastness of the sea. It just spreads out and down farther than you could ever hope to see or sometimes imagine. Float too long and you may never find shore on your own. For others, there's a fear of what monsters lurk in the depths. People love to paint images of enormous monstrosities hiding just below the surface of the water. Giant shadows ascending from the depths on puny boats. No one worries about the little things. The ocean is absolutely vast, but that's not what bothers me. It's relatively unexplored. It's brimming with life that is almost entirely alien to us. We keep discovering new species in the rainforest. Who is to say that a terrifying new species aren't just at the abyssal depths? Who is to say that there aren't monsters at the surface? Terrifying things that simply haven't been observed, or no one has survived the observation of. I was never afraid of the open water. I loved it, in fact. When I was 15, we took our first family trip to the beach. I was about the salt life, the sand. The girls, the water, the animals, it was all absolutely enthralling to me. One night, I went crab hunting on the beach by myself. I didn't take a net, I just wanted to chase the little guys and watch them. I waded into the surf, curious if I could find anything that wasn't present during the day. Hundreds of little white balls wiggled in the beige sand, like eggs that wanted to desperately hatch. They rolled and twisted in their own little craters. Then they all jerked and hundreds of little black dots were pointed directly at me. I swept my flashlight around me and it was the same for as far as I could see in the water. I stumbled out of the waves and picked them off my feet and calves. After just a few moments they left reasonably deep red indentations. The next day I was hesitant to go into the water, even though I was pretty sure it was imagined. Instead, I tried my hand at sandcastles and other sculptures. I didn't find anything in the sand. It was safe. My little brother taunted me down to the edge of the water. I almost ran in, but my brain reminded me of the weird critters that had infested this place just a few hours prior. But it was all smooth, with not even a hint of whatever I'd seen. I charged in and threw him into the water as hard as I could. I dug him out to where the waves crashed over him and let him panic for a minute. Then I noticed we were surrounded by those little pearls. They fit neatly in the sand, like acorns in their caps or seeds in a lotus pod. I jerked him out of the water and over my shoulder. Their little black dots all pointed at me, and moved to stay that way as I cautiously started moving towards the shore. They clung to Brian's body, mostly towards his feet, but I could see some on his shoulders too. Some of them rolled off of him, others burrowed in deeper. He screamed, kicking his legs and flailing his arms. "Let me down," he protested. "I think I got stuck." Then I felt it, like dozens of little needles jamming into my legs and feet. I kicked mine off as I ran, but Brian's were digging deeper. I tried to swat them off. He tried to kick them off, but they dug in deeper. We picked them out on the beach. The dislodged things disappeared into the hot, loose sand. They took my brother in an ambulance to a nearby hospital for treatment. I stayed behind to talk to a wildlife officer and the Coast Guard. I explained what I had seen. what they'd done, how I'd seen them a few nights prior. Neither seemed to believe me. Then a shrill scream ripped across the beach. From up high on the sand we could see a young man surrounded in red water. It wasn't deep enough to be a shark or a dolphin. I ran down with the men I was speaking to help move him. He was missing part of his right leg. It was cut clean, like with surgical equipment. The marrow peeked out of the bone. I noticed the edge of the wood had tightly packed semicircles, like someone had squeezed a string of pearls around his calf until it sliced through. Here I am now, terrified of any size of body of water. Pools, tubs, those are fine. Things don't live there. Lakes, ocean, fuck that. I get panic attacks just driving over a river or a stream. I side-eye ponds. Who knows what they're withholding? Treatment plan. Mr. Hunt has been admitted to the Skinner Foundation Fear Clinic as of 10th of the 3rd, 2018. The fragments that he encountered on the beach were determined to be non-native to this plane of existence. Furthermore, we have found Mr. Hunt to be a compatible match for that particular entity. We have started dosing him with fragments of these old ones, under the guise of anxiety medication. He seems to be suspicious of the medications. We have begun exposing him to the bodies of water which he fears shortly after his medication. He understands the therapy to be working up to him touching the water calmly. We have noted that while his distaste for the open water is still present, he seems to be developing a natural instinct to be in it. He has an internal battle of sorts, about 15 minutes into the exposure therapy. While becoming increasingly agitated, he scratches at his skin and paces at the edge of the water. Eventually, his urges will overtake him, and he throws himself to the waves. The human part of him screams in protest. With dose control, we are hoping to mitigate the side effects that he is seeing. Hunt has developed multicolored scales along his forearms and his back. His pupils have begun to hold a W shape instead of their normal circles. If we can slow the transformation, his body may learn to harness the foreign cells rather than fight with them. We are hopeful that he may, with a little luck, be a new complete specimen, like the 12 were. Thank you all for listening. This has been Thalassophobia patient record HM046910C by user Kelly on our NoSleep. A link to the full story will be in the description. Now, as always, we come to the review portion of this reading. So, right off the bat, I almost get more of a jokey, memey vibe from this. However, the concept is still pretty scary. It wasn't written too well. There were a few hiccups here and there, a few spelling mistakes which did interrupt some of the flow when I was reading, so bear that in mind when you listen to this. And I also felt there were a few issues with pacing. It seemed to jump into things a bit too much. Maybe try to build this up a bit more, add a little more suspense, but that goes back to what I said earlier. I think this is more of a jokey, not so serious type of story. But then again, the concept is quite frightening. Clearly Lovecraftian. We have mentions of old ones, some kind of advanced being that lives in the sea, and becoming that being. These are themes that are explored in Lovecraft's Shadow over Innsmouth, various other works that sort of relate to the sea, how unknown it is, and someone gradually, almost horrifically, becoming an unknown entity. We also have a few clever nods to the Psychiatric Institute. To me, it's clear that the idea that they give him medicine under the guise that it's helping him, but actually turning him into a monster. There are some clear parallels being drawn here between, of all things, Lovecraftian mythos and modern therapy. The idea that they just give you pills that are actually no good for you, claiming that they're helping you. So overall, I'm going to give this story a 2.5 out of 5. The concept was interesting, however, overall, I think there were too many punctuation and spelling mistakes for me to give it anything much higher than that, and there were pacing issues. So of course, Leave your review in the poll I provided above, like this video if you did, share with a friend, and of course, if you haven't already, subscribe for more creepy content.